and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Good.
Hello, this is Buddy C. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Brian and Oscar. I'm glad you could make your way back from all your vacationing. It's a good thing you don't have more children. You'd be gone longer, right? You have to go all these places and visit. Wow, I feel sorry for you. I really do.
Thank you.
Good to have you, though, my friend. You've been missed. I do want to mention one resource. The resource today I want to mention is that if you go to buddyc.org, I pinned a recovery interpretation of the Tao Te Ching, which we're talking about the 64th verse of the Tao Te Ching today. If you go to buddyc.org, you'll see a button at the top right, and you can download the latest version of the book. You don't have to email anyone or do anything except go push the button, prove you're human, and download away. And also, if you have a PDF copy, share it anywhere you can. Share it if you're inclined to share it in any Facebook groups, or see, I've shared it with some state institution systems for inmates because they didn't allow physical books. But we had one request it, an inmate request it, so we sent it out. We distributed the PDF. So any of those places, anywhere it can be used, please use it. And if you guys know of any nonprofits that work with different states distributing books to any institutions of any kind, I have several that we're providing books for. I'm always looking to add those. So let me know. My email, you can get me at info@buddyc.org. Okay. The 64th verse of the Tao Te Ching. Oscar, you want to read us Jonathan Starr?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Verse 64. A still mind can easily hold the truth. The difficulties yet to come can easily be avoided. The feeble are easily broken. The small are easily scattered. Begin your task before it becomes a burden. Put things in order before they get out of hand. Remember, a tree that fills a man's embrace grows from a seedling. A tower 9 stories high starts with 1 brick. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Act and it's ruined. Grab and it's gone. People on the verge of success often lose patience and fail in their undertakings. Be steady from the beginning to the end, and you won't bring on failure. The sage desires that which has no desires, and teaches that which cannot be taught. He does not value the objects held by a few, but only that which is held by everyone. He guides men back to their own treasure, and helps all things come to know the truth they have forgotten. All this he does without a stir. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Brian, you want to read us a Derek Lynn?
Yeah, sure. When it is peaceful, it is easy to maintain. When it shows no signs, it is easy to plan. When it is fragile, it is easy to break. When it is small, it is easy to scatter. Act on it when it has not yet begun. Treat it when it is not yet chaotic. A tree thick enough to embrace grows from the tiny sapling. A tower of 9 levels starts from the dirt heap. A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. The one who meddles will fail. The one who grasps will lose. Therefore, sages do not meddle and thus do not fail. They do not grasp and thus do not lose. People in handling affairs often come close to completion and fail. If they are as careful in the end as the beginning, then they would have no failure. Therefore, sages desire not to desire. They do not value goods that are hard to acquire. They learn to unlearn, to redeem the fault of the people, to assist the nature of all things without daring to meddle.
Thank you, Brian. I'll read Stephen Mitchell. What is rooted in easy, what is rooted is easy to nourish. What is recent is easy to correct. What is brittle is easy to break. What is small is easy to scatter. Prevent trouble before it arises. Put things in order before they exist. The giant pine tree grows from a tiny sprout. The journey of 1,000 miles starts from beneath your feet. Rush into action, you fail. Trying to grasp things, you lose them. Forcing a project to completion, you ruin what was already, Forcing a project to completion, you ruin what was almost right. Therefore, the master takes action by letting things take their course. He remains as calm at the end as at the beginning. He has nothing, thus has nothing to lose. What he desires is not desire. What he learns is to unlearn. He simply reminds people of who they have always been. He cares about nothing but the Tao. Thus, he can care for all things. Comments, guys?
There is really a lot in this.
It is, isn't it?
It's really amazing. But the first thing I noticed is that in the two translations you read, it seems to start with another kind of line, because Jonathan starts with a still mind can easily hold the truth. And I didn't hear that in yours. Is that?
Yeah, mine was what is rooted is easy to nourish.
Derek Lynn is when it is peaceful, it is easy to maintain.
So there's a stillness there.
Yeah. And when it's rooted, like the cypress. Yeah, okay.
Let's start with the first stanza. We'll use the Stephen Mitchell as an outline, if that's okay, and then we can bring in other quotes as we want. What is rooted is easy to nourish. I can see that, the stillness that we're talking about. What is recent is easy to correct. Okay, I can see that. What is brittle is easy to break. All these, I'm thinking of a spiritual application, not just a physical application. There's a lot of talk in the Tao about what is brittle is dyed. I was thinking of that when it was talking about the things that are brittle. If you're holding on to something that's dead, it's very easy to break it too. Even maybe you don't realize it's dead. I'm talking about like jobs or relationships or any interaction we have. And sometimes I'm trying to pump life into something that's dead. It's not going to happen. I need to learn to notice that. I guess not learn, allow myself to notice that, maybe a better way to say it. Words are so imperfect. Oscar?
Yeah, I had a conversation this morning with my sponsor and another one of our fellows, and it was about the smallest lie where you always start with. So you come from I'm okay and I'm honest, and then one lie starts uh, driving the machine. And that one lie is actually quite easily broken by telling someone, telling my sponsor if it's not the appropriate one, or tell my wife, or even my children or fellow. So it gets out of my head into the air, and it has its own right of existence as it is. But when I keep it in my mind, I'm lost because there's going to be a next one and it's going to grow and grow. And that's what here it says the difficulties yet to come can easily be avoided. For instance, with this example, when I just tell a lie or even don't even lie, it's better. But suppose I did it and I was not aware and now it's there. Then what do I do with it? And at that moment, it's still the difficulties that have to come, they are huge. And I know this. But when I keep it in my mind, it will grow and grow, and the difficulties will grow and grow, and I will get in more and more trouble. And sooner or later, the thought will pop into my mind that it's a good idea to get a drink or whatever it takes to take me away from the world. But this whole problem is not a problem in the beginning, right? It's when the 1,000 miles begin with one step. So there's the first lie is the first lie. That's what I recognize in this whole stanza from the conversation I had this morning, that it always starts with a really small, also the mental obsession. So when the mental obsession forgetting to want a drink. So when I'm not using and I'm okay, and suddenly it pops in my mind, hey, it might be a good idea, or yes, I can do it. It's really small and there's no difficulties yet. But when I keep it in my mind, it's going to grow and grow, and it's going to be trouble which is impossible to overcome, and I'm going to grab the drink. So the mental obsession always starts with a really small thing. It's a really only one tiny little thought out of nothing. And when I don't notice it, it's going to live its own way and it's going to grow. That's what I read here in relation to our recovery. Thanks.
Oscar, I don't know if y'all have this children's cartoon there. And I don't even know if it's still on. It was in the in the 90s when my kids were little, in early 2000s. Clifford, the big red dog. Do you remember that, Brian? Yeah. Did they have it there, Oscar?
Yes, I know him. Yeah.
Okay. There was one the only one I remember out of all of them was that, and I don't know if this is all the time or just in this episode, but when he lied, he got bigger. His body got bigger. So every time he lied, he grew. So it started with one little lie, like you were talking about. He just grew a little bit. Before long, he was like Godzilla size because he kept lying to cover up his past lie, that kind of thing. And that's so true. No matter what we're talking about, it's so easy at first to correct those things. The way Stephen Mitchell puts it too, prevent trouble before it rises. That's put things in order, prevent trouble before it arises, put things in order before they exist.
That's before the decision, I'm going to lie.
Yes.
But it's before the first lie. And when I have this awareness, which also happens, thank God, then I don't do the lie. And then I'm in this field of, okay, I prevented the whole journey or the whole trouble or the whole ride. Everything is prevented by awareness. It's actually awareness about my thoughts. So it's actually a constant mind checking. Are my thoughts okay? And is the action that comes from me okay?
Thank you, Oscar. The next part of that stanza, the giant pine tree grows from a tiny sprout. The journey of 1,000 miles starts beneath your feet. I've heard that quote to be, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Watch your steps. That's really true. What sprouts do I see that I'm not going to deal with that right now? I'll deal with it later. It's not enough to be a problem
Until it is.
till it is. Right, Brian? You've got something else?
Yeah. I was just thinking that here when Oscar was sharing, I was thinking about a friend in my program that was talking about if you have a relapse, it's not what happened at that moment. It's what happened 2 weeks ago or even 3 months ago that spurred that and just left that churning, that little thing that you didn't share. And then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. One thing that comes up for me is, and I guess in a way you could say it's a lie, but like sneaky behavior. And that could start with just anything, just ordering something that my wife could care less about, but I don't tell her, or I come in through my workshop and put it away in my toolbox, and I'm like, it's that second wrench that she could care less, but it's like there's this piece inside of me that's just, I guess it's like if somebody finds out, I'm going to get in trouble. Maybe I'm getting away with something. I know for me, when I was deep in my disease, I had so much lying going on. Like it was ridiculous. I could be in a drive-through at McDonald's and I would say I'm at Taco Bell. And I don't eat fast food, period. I have to watch out for the sneaky behavior and the lying, because it'll compound and it'll turn into a mess.
Thanks, Brian. Did you guys notice I was a chronic relapser for 5 years, but I noticed that for a time before I actually relapsed, I was exhibiting alcoholic behavior. A lot of the time I would get the efforts. When I started getting the efforts and didn't screw everything, stopped eating like I needed to and just ate whatever I wanted to regardless. I've already relapsed when I allow that behavior. I just haven't had a drink yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of this, not just in a lie, but in all of our dealing with all of our defects of character. Can we notice them earlier in the process? Because ultimately, if I allow a defective character to continue, they're going to develop into either an amend I need to make or resentment on my part. Can I deal with them before they get there? When they're small, when I've only taken a few steps in the wrong direction, down a few steps to that journey. Say, whoa, I don't want to go on that journey. Let me just stop right here. Oh, I see that tree sprouting. Oh, it's sprouting and starting to grow. Let me get rid of that right now. Oscar?
Yeah, I think That's so very true. And with this last, at least with this last three sentences of this stanza, which ends with a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step, it works also the other way around. So when I was in my rock bottom, and okay, I'm devastated. I was broken. I was psychotic. I was a junkie. I was really off track with everybody. And then my powerlessness became clear to me. And that is actually not only the first step in 12 steps, but also the first step of a very long journey, which is, as a matter of fact, a lifelong journey. I'm very aware of spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is a process. It's not a flash and then it's happened and then you're an angel. It's a process, and the process is beautiful. And the change of perception in my life is so huge, but it needs to be taken step by step in the present moment. So I can only do one step in the present moment, the step that needs to be done at that moment. So it's two ways, actually. When I look at my character defects and I take the first step, I need to stop it as soon as possible. And the other way around, when I want the spiritual awakening to keep happening, I have to do it step by step in the present moment. Thanks.
Thanks, Oscar. Okay, the next stanza in Stephen Mitchell, rushing into action, you fail. I think the star was act and it is ruined. Trying to grasp things, you lose them. Forcing a project to completion, you ruin what was almost right, what was almost ready. It's interesting there, rushing, grasping, forcing. There's action to take place, but we don't rush it. There's things to hold, but you don't grasp them. I heard Bree say in a meeting, we hold with an open hand now. Like, yeah, that's it. That's it. We hold with an open hand. We don't grasp. We don't take prisoners anymore. We don't have captives in our life. I can do that with any kind of relationship too. It doesn't have to be any kind of, it could be friends, family, anyone. I can take a captive. Yeah.
Business.
Oh, yeah. Any form, Brian. Friends, anything. Forcing a project doesn't mean we don't work on projects. It just means we don't force. You know, you could read this and think, what do? I do nothing.
Sit in the office with your feet up.
Yeah. Sit on my hands just to keep from waving at everybody. It's not like that. That's not life. We do have things we have to do. I like the example of we ruin things that are almost ready. All the work's been done. All it takes is us to show a little stillness, be that noticer, allow it to grow, and it's almost ready and we ruin it.
With control.
Yeah. But ultimately it goes back to fear. You know, what if it doesn't work like maybe I need to do just a little more. I need to.
I've started trying to ask myself, Brian, what are you afraid of?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then the other voice in my head's like, you're not afraid of anything. And then I'm like, I think it through, hear the gears clicking, and I'm like, yeah, I am afraid of if this doesn't happen, this, and then I'll be under a bridge. And yeah, that fear's can be a good motivator, but at the same time, it can be a bad character defect.
But is it really the motivation we want?
Mm-mm.
I remember my spirituality in the past was motivated by fear. Literally was. Now it's not. It makes it so much easier. And actually, if you look at what constituted spirituality then, as far as a way of life change, I live a much more love dominated life now than I did then. I tried as hard as I could and couldn't do it. Now I'm learning to quit trying and just learn to be helpful in this moment, like Oscar was talking about, the moment, and just leave the rest aside. I still have trouble, though. My primary trouble with that now, I'm working through some regret. I've never really learned how to deal with, I've never had regret before. I've had some in the last couple of years, and I haven't quite surrendered to that. I still think about some things. Oh, if I'd have done that kind of thing. And I know that's not healthy. And I'm still surrendering to that. And I know eventually I'll see some relief from it. But that's been tough for me. And I have someone, when that happens, I have someone that I pray for that's dealing with the same kind of things. So I'll bring it up to page 84. So I don't know. Oscar?
Yeah, for me, because I recognize the regret thing a lot, as when I read the first time A Course in Miracles, and it talks about guilt. It's actually a regret is guilt. I have not done this correct, or I should have done it the other way, and I'm stupid for it. And so I punish myself with my feelings of guilt, and then in the process of letting go of this, it's really a gift when it comes. When the feeling of regret comes, I think, there it is. And when it is there, I can let it go. So every time I'm grateful when the regret comes by an accident or an incident or coincidence, and there it is again. And when it's there, okay, it's an opportunity to let it go. And with this, it's also a release of fear, actually, because fear and guilt are so huge in our system, and we project it on everything, and it comes again and it comes again. But since I made a decision, okay, those feelings are here. Why not welcome them and welcome the moment and the opportunity to feel them and to let them go? So I really live, when I have those days, I really live in step 6 and 7. Am I willing to let it go? Yes. Thank you, Lord. And whoops. And I try to release it as much as possible in this moment, because I know it won't be gone in overnight.
I know it's waves, and I do the same thing, Oscar. I'm not thankful for it yet. And I've had way too many gifts lately. I've got plenty of gifts. I've learned to treat it the same way I do anger, when I learned that anger was, if I quit fighting the anger, it dissipated. My resistance to it gave it pressure, gave it strength. And the guilt's the same way. The regret's the same way. But I'm ready for it to be done. This is a new one for me. I haven't had to deal with guilt. I've never had this, or mine is regret. I've never had regret before. I could always see after a decision was made that it was the correct decision, that I'm moving in the right direction, all that stuff. But we'll see. Okay, where are we? We're on almost the last stanza. The last one in Mitchell. Therefore, the master takes action by letting things take their course. That's a theme throughout the whole Tao Te Ching and all Taoist thought, is that the action we take is allowing everything to move on its own. Well, didn't we have that in one lately? Oh, 63.
It's every week.
It is, isn't it? When she runs into difficulty, she stops and gives herself to it. I've never heard that taught in any of my self-help motivation classes. It's always the opposite, right? You can do this. You can. He remains calm. He remains as calm at the end as at the beginning. Now that's a tough one. How many times you've been on a project, Brian? At first you're smooth, everything's moving along, but you get down to the wire. Are you as calm at the end as you were at the beginning?
No, I've actually got a term I use. I call it helping.
Yes.
That when I decide I'm gonna help, that's when I make messes. And thankfully, I don't help anymore. I just let things go and let things run their course, because I can quickly turn into, y'all know, the Tasmanian devil, running around and controlling, pushing. That's what I do. So I have to avoid that.
So a good red flag for me would be if I'm finishing whatever it is that's going on. I can relate this to business things more than anything. Okay, am I as calm at this moment, anywhere during the process, as I was when we started? If I'm not, there's some work to do there.
Mm-hmm.
See, none of this means that you don't do, is you learn how to do from a place of surrender rather than self-sufficiency, is one way I think you could put it. Okay, we're getting some good ones here. He has nothing, thus has nothing to lose. Doesn't mean he has no nothing physical. He has no finances. He could be someone very wealthy or very poor. That's not what it's talking about. I don't think. I'd be curious what you guys think on this. I would think a better description would be, rather than he has nothing, he has no selfishness involved. He has no ulterior motives. He has no fear. We could just go all the way to fear. That's where we're heading. He is not acting out of fear, and there's no selfishness. There's nothing. There's no little self in there, so there's no little self to lose. Because that's when we feel lost, is when we're all tied up in self and fear and those things. Oscar?
Yeah, I hear the same. Yeah, I thought the relief from the bondage of self, the letting go of self, that's the clue. That's the thing, right? The stanza here starts with: the sage desires that which has no desires. And you only get that when you let go of self, because self is quite the same as desire / fear.
Yes.
So when you let this go, what remains is that which has no desires. And still we can move, right? Still we can go to work or do the laundry or talk with our kids and raise them and whatever. We can go on holidays, we can, but it's when it's without self, without me, it has to be good for me, and I don't want this and I don't want that, and all my opinions, all my analyzing, all my judgments, when I let all those things go and just be and just exist or am or move through this present moment, in this present moment through time, I move in the present moment through time without self, then there's complete peace. And that's what we learn, or at least how I see the big book. That's how we learn to live. That's the new way of life that we are working on. So it's never perfect, but we know perfection is in the north, so we go north. We will never reach perfection. That's fine, but we will. But for me, when I speak for me, I will definitely try to stay on track towards perfection. Though I know it's a horizon which will always move and I will never arrive there. That would be insane to think. But in the moment, I can, okay, live in the solution.
Is that not perfection, Oscar? Just being present in this moment with the compassionate living right now and just doing that in more moments of the day. I think that's true perfection. It's not, oh, did I do this? Or did I heart all the things I thought of as perfection before? Being perfect kind of perfection. I don't know. I don't think that's possible, but that's not really the goal anymore.
No, if you would set a goal in this spiritual way, it would be a continuum of living in the present moment without self. But
Yeah.
that as a kind of, it will always be like, then you are enlightened, which is fine. So enlightenment would be the goal of perfection. But for me, that's nonsense to think about, to reach. Though I know, okay, that's where I'm heading to, and then I come back to the, okay, the journey is far more important than the goal. So the one step in time, up, just one at a time, and now, and then I'm okay, and then I do as good as I can, as good as I can. That's it.
It's like we've talked before. I'm coming to realize that we're already perfect, that we're already complete. We're just believing the lie, the misperception that we're not. We're all. I liked the way. I still love the way you put it, Oscar, a while back about the moment that we're always in the moment. I think this is correct. We're always in the moment, but we believe the misperception that we're not. That was
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah, that's insane. When you realize, well, so many times we say I have to get back to the to the present. Well,
Where are you?
yeah, where have you been? That's where you are. I mean, that's all you got. Actually, it's the only thing where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, you got something?
I was just thinking there's the place Paul posts his gratitude list that I've started posting in. There's one person in there that has a list, and the title is Everything is Already Okay. And when I read that, I was like, that's when things are good, it's easy to say, yeah, I'm in my place, and I can see that. But when it's not the way Brian wants it, that could be a tough one.
You know, it makes it easier when we realize that our peace does not come from things being a particular way. It comes back to accepting the moment as it is right now.
Yeah.
That's where our peace is at. Or that's what I've found.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps with that a lot.
Man, I had one of these weeks where there was a lot of busy work, but not orders, not money stuff. But it all goes into it's all part of making a living. But I can get in that fear. And one of the things I did was I did some service work for a friend who's got a brother that's terminally ill, and we rallied the troops and helped him move. And man, it really, dishwasher went out, had an outlet go out, just a few little things, machine go down. And I kept telling myself, I was like, Be thankful that you're not really busy this week. You've got the time to tend to all these things. But it was hard for me to continue on and accept that and say, it could be much worse. You could be really busy and you've got people barking at you and you're helping a buddy move in the middle of the day. And matter of fact, to be really honest, I come home yesterday about 12 after a 2-year-old machine wouldn't turn on. And I was just like, I need a nap. So Lily and I, we piled up and took a nap, man. I needed a reset. And because I was starting to get a wheel off, occasionally coming off that rail.
Yes. Hey, Oscar, how about the second half of the star sentence that we just talked about? The sage teaches that which cannot be taught. Is that sharing experience, strength, and hope is a way I could look at that?
Yeah, but I think it's the spirit in which you share it. So the spirit in which I am sitting in a train, if I'm in a good spirit and I'm in the present moment and I'm in the Tao and I'm at peace, then I share it and I teach it to other people, without doing anything, just by being. And this is a kind of miracle of this sentence, and teaches that which cannot be taught. You cannot teach it somebody. You can, just by being, they can sense it and recognize it within their own selves.
Attraction, not promotion.
Yeah, that's the attraction of the program. That's what the newcomer, that's what I saw when I came in with the ones who were years and years clean and were spiritual fit. I thought, wow, they are there.
It was like my first meeting. There was a guy, I don't remember, he didn't teach me. There was nothing taught, with air quotes, but I left with hope that it would work for me. So he taught me something that could not be taught. Yeah. I talk about desire. I have a sponsee that he was going on vacation with a family. I said, I want you to try something. He said, okay. I said, I want you to go on this vacation and I want your constant mantra to be, how can I make my family's vacation better? Rather than thinking about how you can make your vacation better, think about how you can make your family. How can you make your wife's vacation better? How can you make your children's vacation better? And he came back and said, wow, had a great time. He said, I couldn't believe it. I said, yep, that's the non-desire, I think. Same guy. He just had a recent vacation. This has been a couple of years ago when I said that, sometime back. And he said, I'm really upset. I said, what happened? He said, we came over here to go fishing, and my son, the morning of, we got all these people going, he didn't want to go. So he didn't go, and I really don't enjoy it, but everyone was going. So I just decided to stay home with him. I said, okay. And then he got to talking more, and he says, the one thing I wanted from this vacation was to spend some time with my son. I'm like, whoa. I said, wait a minute. I said, don't you see what happened? He said, that did happen, didn't it? I said, it did. It just didn't happen like you wanted it to happen. And so he's like, wow. He just couldn't see the forest for the trees. He just could not he was upset. I'm like, wait a minute. Part of it was he was embarrassed because his son didn't want to go, all those things that factor in. So he was missing the real gift that was there. He had some desire mixed in other words. That was,
and some expectations.
He did. He was like, wow, it really did happen. I said, it didn't it? So he said, yeah, we had a great day. We went and did this. And he still couldn't see it at first. And I'm like, wait a minute. And he was just, it's crazy. But that's what happens. What he learns is to unlearn. What's the Tao quote with that? Seeking wisdom, you learn something every day if you're seeking knowledge. You unlearn something every day if you're
seeking wisdom.
Yeah. He simply reminds people of who they have always been. He simply reminds people of who they've always been.
And that doesn't mean going around teaching lessons.
No, it doesn't.
Buddy, you're an asshole, and I'm going to show you why.
Yes. Yes.
It's just the opposite.
Sure is. Sure is. Doesn't say he teaches, he reminds.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds people of who they've always been. And then the last phrase, he cares about nothing but the Tao. Thus, he can care for all things. That's that surrender that has to take place.
Yeah, the sentence here is he guides men back to their own treasure.
Yes.
That's also, I heard this quote from Rumi from a poem this week, where the anecdote or the poem, or I don't know exactly what it is. Someone is knocking on the door of the house of God because he wants to enter the house of God, because he wants to be with God. And he's knocking and knocking, and then he's so tired because nobody opens the door, and he sits down and finds out that he is already in the room. He's knocking from the inside. So we are already here, and that's our own treasure. I really like that a lot. We always had this God consciousness, or the Tao, or consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. We have it with us. The same as the present moment, actually. It's the same thing. We are in the present moment. It's here. It's always here. It never leaves us. Never.
How can it? It's our nature.
Yeah, it's who we are.
Yeah. I've got a Bible verse that is applicable here. This is the Message version. This is it's from the Beatitudes, Matthew 5:7. It says, "You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being careful or full of care, you find yourselves cared for. You realize it. That when you're full of care, you realize you're cared for." Just said a little different way, the same thing. Yeah, he doesn't help them find other treasure that they don't have. The sage guides them back to their own treasure. Helps all things to know the truth they have forgotten. And all this he does without a stir. Because he's not relying on self. It's not up to him.
Step 3.
Do what, Brian?
I said step 3.
Yes. The first 3 altogether.
Yeah. 1, 2, and 3. Here it is.
I can't do what I decided to do in 3 without working the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure you want to make the decision you do in step 3? Because I think we don't know what we're asking when we do that.
I've told people about that. You said, have you prayed the prayer? Or you said, whatever it takes.
I remember when I heard myself pray that, I'm like, it's like a third person. I heard myself doing it. I'm like, and the first thing I thought was, oh shit, why did I pray that?
Yeah. It's kind of like my gratitude list. I don't even remember exactly what it was probably something thankful for. I was thankful for a small order that I had. And at the end of that, I put, thank you, it is enough. And I was looking at those words and I was like, damn, it is enough, but I'd like a little more, maybe like 2 or 3 times that, and then I'd be okay. But I really tried to sit with that.
It's easy for me to have this lack mentality that I only get just what I need, just barely enough. And I've had to change my thinking on what enough means. enough does not have to mean that that I'm scraping by. You know, it can mean that I have everything I need at all times, regardless of what that is, which I do, whether I realize it or not. And that's what we're talking about, is learning how to lay down that self-sufficiency and be where our feet are and approaching our moments with this intent of helpfulness and allowing the moment to arise without us trying to pull it or push it. Like the farmer trying to get his plants to grow, so he went out and started pulling them. I think that's a Chauncey story where asked, Father, what have you been doing all day? I've been out pulling the plants. I'm wanting them to grow.
And you're getting the exact opposite result.
Exactly. But if I'm available and I'm willing and open, I can see what the next right action is if I sit with it. And if I miss it, I can do what I'm told to do in meditation, bring my attention back to the breath or whatever. For me, what I like to do, I heard this on Headspace when I first started meditating. I did a year of that to get me acclimated to different things with meditation. It's like Andy said, it's like having traffic on the road and you're looking at something on the other side of the road. You don't walk out in the traffic to get closer to it. You stay where you're at. And when cars come by, you don't follow the car and keep following the cars by. He said, you just let the cars come by, but you just look through the cars. Oh, okay. And it's a practice to learn not to push back against those thoughts. Oh, I don't need to be thinking that. Oh, I'm supposed to be meditating right now. I've been gone for 10 minutes. Blah, 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 blah. You know how that can go. I said, oh, okay. Okay, thought, come on. I'll laugh at it or smile at it. And so you do whatever you want to do. I'm just looking through you now like a sheer curtain, that kind of thing. And that's the same kind of action we take. We're present, we're available, but we're not pushing. We're not being drawn by our fears. We're allowing. That's the nothing. I believe so. Any closing comments, guys? I know we're over time.
Nothing.
But are we really over time?
Yeah. I had a sponsee this week. I'll make this really quick. I was complaining about something. He said, you know what you would tell me? I said, don't quote me to me. I said, I don't want to hear it today. Well, this is what you would tell me. I'm like,
Page so-and-so.
What a gift. What a gift. Gift that just keeps on giving. Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.